In September 2019, a 38-year-old man named David set out on a solo 3-day backpacking trip in the Bitterroot Mountains of western Montana. He was an experienced hiker. He had completed over 40 solo trips across the western United States. He knew the terrain, he knew the protocols. He was not the kind of person who made mistakes in the wilderness. On the second night, he made camp at approximately 6,000 feet elevation in a narrow valley between two ridgelines. He set up his tent, cooked his meal, hung his food bag 15 feet off the ground between two trees as recommended, and was asleep by 9. He woke at 11:47. He knew the time because he checked his watch immediately. Something had woken him, not a sound exactly, more an absence of sound. The valley, which had been alive with the usual nocturnal noise of crickets and distant wind, had gone completely silent. He lay still inside his tent and listened. And then he heard it. Movement. Slow, deliberate, heavy movement somewhere in the tree line to the north of his camp. Not the light, quick movement of deer or elk, something heavier, something that was moving at a pace that suggested it was not in a hurry. He unzipped his tent slowly and looked out. The moon was bright enough to see clearly for approximately 40 feet in every direction. His camp was empty. The food bag was undisturbed. There was nothing visible in the tree line. But the sound continued, moving slowly, parallel to his camp, heading east along the valley floor. David was not easily frightened. He had encountered bears twice on previous trips and knew the protocol. This did not sound like a bear. Bears move with a particular rhythm. This movement was different, more measured, more deliberate. Bipedal, he thought, though he could not be certain. He remained at the entrance of his tent for 20 minutes. The sound continued, steady, unhurried, until it faded into the distance to the east. The valley went quiet again. He did not sleep for the rest of that night. In the morning, he broke camp early and walked the tree line to the north of where he had camped. He found tracks, a trail of impressions in the soft earth between the trees, running parallel to his campsite, exactly as the sound had suggested. The impressions were large, approximately 17 inches in length. The stride length between each impression was approximately 5 feet. Whatever had made them was walking upright on 2 legs. David photographed every impression with his phone. He counted 14 visible prints before the trail moved onto rocky ground and disappeared. He hiked out that day. He filed a report with the Bitterroot National Forest Ranger Station before driving home. A ranger accompanied him back to the location 2 days later. The ranger examined the photographs and the remaining impressions. 3 were still visible on softer ground. The ranger submitted the photographs to the Forest Service Wildlife Division. The official response, received 6 weeks later, stated that the impressions were inconsistent with any known wildlife species in the region. They were inconsistent with black bear, grizzly bear, elk, moose, and mountain lion. They were also inconsistent with standard human footwear. The report concluded with a note that the impressions could not be attributed to any identified source and that the file would remain open pending further evidence. No further evidence was ever submitted. David has not returned to the Bitterroot Mountains. He still hikes, but never alone, and never in that valley again. When asked what he believes made those tracks, he gives the same answer every time. He says, "I do not know, and that is the part I cannot make peace with." What separates David's case from a typical wilderness encounter is the official documentation. The Forest Service Wildlife Division's written response that the impressions were inconsistent with any known species in the region is a government document, filed, archived, accessible. It does not say what made the tracks, it says only what did not make them. That distinction matters because it means the question is not whether something was there. Something clearly was.
The question that remains unanswered, the one David has carried for 6 years, is what? Story 2 happened to 4 people, and they were all awake when it started. In July 2021, 4 friends, 2 couples in their late 20s named Josh, Amber, Ryan, and Claire, went on a 4-day camping trip in the Siuslaw National Forest in coastal Oregon. All 4 were experienced campers. They had made this same trip 2 years earlier without incident. They set up camp on the second afternoon in a clearing approximately a mile from the nearest trail marker. Well-established site, fire ring already present, flat ground, good tree cover. That evening they ate dinner around the fire, talked until around 11, and all went to bed in their 2 tents, Josh and Amber in one, Ryan and Claire in the other. Josh woke at 3:14 in the morning. He was not sure what woke him. He lay still for a moment, listening. He heard nothing unusual. Then he noticed that the tent felt different. The tension on the fabric was slightly off, like something was pressing gently against it from outside without enough force to wake the others. He unzipped the tent quietly and looked out. Nothing was immediately visible. The fire had died to embers. The clearing was still and dark. He looked toward Ryan and Claire's tent. It was still standing, still zipped. He looked down. The tent stake nearest his feet had been pulled from the ground and reinserted approximately 3 inches to the left. He stared at it for a moment, not understanding what he was seeing. Then he looked at the next stake. It too had been moved, pulled cleanly from the earth and reinserted nearby. He walked the full perimeter of both tents. Every single stake, 16 stakes total across both tents, had been pulled and reinserted. And when Josh stood back and looked at the full picture in the dim ember light, he saw it. The stakes had been rearranged in a circle, a perfect circle around both tents, measured with an accuracy that suggested a tool or instrument rather than an estimation. Their equipment, packs, cooking gear, water bottles, shoes left outside the tents had been moved as well, not randomly, arranged. Their 4 pairs of boots were placed toe to toe in a cross formation in the center of the circle. The food bags, hung in a tree 15 feet above the camp, were completely untouched. Josh woke the others. All 4 examined the campsite. None of them had heard anything. Claire said she was an extremely light sleeper. She woke at any sound. She had heard nothing. They broke camp immediately in the dark and hiked out to their vehicles. They filed a report with the Siuslaw National Forest Ranger Station that morning. Rangers returned to the campsite with them 2 days later. The circle of stake holes was still clearly visible in the earth. Rangers took measurements. The circle was 14 feet in diameter. The spacing between each stake hole was mathematically consistent, within a 1/4 inch of equal spacing all the way around. The Rangers' report noted that to achieve that level of geometric precision in darkness without waking 4 sleeping people would have required either multiple individuals working simultaneously with measuring instruments, or a single individual with extraordinary patience and skill, and an amount of time inconsistent with none of the 4 campers waking. No evidence of other persons was found at the site. No footprints other than the 4 campers' own. No litter, no disturbance to any vegetation around the clearing perimeter. The report concluded that no explanation for the arrangement could be offered, and that the case would be filed as an unresolved wilderness incident. Josh, Amber, Ryan, and Claire have camped together twice since that trip. Never in Oregon, never in a clearing, never without someone keeping watch through the night. What Josh says when people ask him what he thinks it was is this. He says, whatever it was not trying to hurt us. It was trying to show us that it could have.
2 stories, 2 encounters, neither explained. In both cases, the people involved were experienced outdoors people, not first-timers, not people prone to panic or misinterpretation, people who knew wild spaces well and recognized when something in a wild space was wrong. Story 3 is different from both, because in Story 3, there is no ambiguity about what was found. The campfire was real, the shoe was real, the child it belonged to was real. What nobody has ever been able to explain is how any of it got there, or where the child was. Stay with me.
In October 2020, a 44-year-old woman named Susan was hiking alone in a trail in the Cherokee National Forest in eastern Tennessee. She was an experienced day hiker. The trail was well marked and moderately trafficked. She had hiked it before. She set out at 7 in the morning. The plan was a 12-mile loop back by early afternoon. At approximately 10:45, roughly 5 miles in, she rounded a bend in the trail and stopped. In the middle of the trail, directly on the trail, not at a campsite, not near a clearing, directly on the trail, a campfire was burning. Not smoldering, not the remains of a fire, burning, active, well-fed flames approximately 2 feet high, a fire that had clearly been built and maintained for some time. She stood and looked at it for a long moment. She looked in every direction. The trail was empty in both directions as far as she could see. The forest on both sides was quiet. No voices, no movement, no sign of any person. She looked at the fire more carefully. It was built correctly. A proper fire lay, not a random pile of burning wood. Someone who knew how to build a fire had built this one. The wood around the base was arranged in a cross pattern. The fuel wood beside it had been neatly stacked. And then she saw the shoe. To the left of the fire, placed carefully on a flat rock beside the trail, was a single child's sneaker, white with a blue stripe. Child-sized, she estimated for a child between 4 and 6 years old. The shoe was clean, not weathered, not damaged. It had not been there long. Susan stood and looked at the fire and the shoe for what she estimated was 2 or 3 minutes. She called out. No response. She walked a short distance into the forest on both sides of the trail. Nobody. She called 911 from the trail. Rangers and a sheriff's deputy arrived approximately 40 minutes later. By the time they arrived, the fire had burned down significantly but was still active, which told investigators it had been built with enough fuel to sustain itself for several hours. The area was searched. A search team covered the surrounding forest in a half-mile radius. No person was found, no additional clothing or equipment, no campsite, no second shoe. The shoe was collected as evidence. It was a standard children's sneaker, size 7 toddler, manufactured by a major brand and sold widely. No identifying information inside. A missing persons check found no active missing child reports in the county or surrounding counties on that date. The shoe was never matched to a child. The fire was never attributed to any person. The case was filed as an unresolved report. The official description stated, origin of fire and ownership of footwear unknown. No person of interest identified. Susan completed her loop hike with the ranger escort that day. She has not returned to that trail. She said in a written account shared with a hiking forum that the detail she cannot explain is not the fire. A fire can have explanations. People camp illegally. People build fires and leave. What she cannot explain is the shoe. She said, a fire without a person is strange. A shoe without a child is something else entirely. I have thought about that shoe every day since October 2020. I have never found a way to stop.
3 cases, 3 investigations, 3 official reports that all end the same way. Unknown, unresolved, open.
What these 3 cases share is something that most horror does not have: the absence of a villain. No identified person, no motive, no arrest, no explanation that closes the case and lets you move on. Just what happened, and the silence where the answer should be. David still hikes, he just never goes alone. Josh and his friends still camp, they just never sleep without someone keeping watch. Susan still hikes, she just never hikes that trail. And somewhere in the Bitterroot Mountains, in the Siuslaw National Forest, and on a trail in the Cherokee National Forest, the official case files are still open, still waiting. 3 encounters, all documented, none explained. These are not the only cases like this. There are hundreds of official wilderness reports filed every year across the United States that end with the same word: unknown. The wilderness is vast, and most of what happens in it is never witnessed, and most of what is witnessed is never explained. Hit the like button right now. One tap tells YouTube to show these cases to every person who has ever walked alone in a wild place and felt something watching them that they could not see. Subscribe to Mr. Fadoo Horror if you are not already. Every week, true accounts, documented cases, the kind that stay with you because they have no ending. Drop a comment below. Which case got to you most? The footprints, the circle, or the fire? And tell me, would you still go hiking alone after hearing these? I read every single reply. I have another compilation waiting for you right here. Watch that next. I will see you there.